Times.
I think this issue of using the military to go after American citizens is one of those things I think is a very, very bad thing. Even to say it for political purposes to get elected, I think it's a very, very bad thing, let alone actually doing it.
You know, in your view, does this paint the former president's recent comments about using the military against the, quote, enemy from within in any kind of a new light?
Yeah, it does. And I think that there are people who are still trying to make up their mind about what to do. And I think tonight should be a very sobering moment for those people. If Kamala Harris gets elected president, what is the worst thing that she's likely to do? You might not like her tax policy. And in 2 years, you can vote in a new Congress, and 2 years after that, you can vote in a new president and get a different tax policy. If Donald Trump gets elected, and even if some of these people are bitter or mad or they're exaggerating or some of this stuff turns out not to be true, if even half of what they're saying is true, what's the worst that could happen with Donald Trump? It is an unknowable. It is beyond our ability to comprehend. And so if at this point you are at home and you're trying to figure out what should I do, tonight should give you real pause. The worst thing that Kamala Harris could do, maybe bad tax policy. We may not have a constitution by the time that someone like this is president with no guardrails. He didn't do a lot of bad stuff when he was in there before because he had people around him who wouldn't let him. Those people are all gone. You now have a Supreme Court that says he is essentially lawless. So you have a lawless president with no regard for our Constitution, and people, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the former Chief of Staff to the White House are screaming and yelling, saying, my God, do not vote for this man. That should matter to people tonight. It should matter to people tonight.
And I mean, have you ever heard of an instance in modern, American presidential history of the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the general who was the chief of staff, coming forward and revealing stuff like this?
Anderson, I know John Kelly very well. General John Kelly was the commander of Southcom, which is based out of South Florida. We were neighbors in Coral Gables. He, his wife Karen, I spent a lot of time socializing with them. I spent a lot of time with them just after they had lost their son, Robert, who died in Afghanistan, serving in Afghanistan. To me, hearing John talk about this right now is chilling, because it's an extraordinary step for John Kelly to take 14 days before the election, trying to warn the American people. Look, the gravitas that John Kelly has, the commitment to duty, the dedication to chain of command. This is not something he does lightly. John Kelly has not written a book. He hasn't been out there giving paid speeches, blasting Trump. He hasn't been on TV or trying to become a TV commentator. John Kelly has kept fairly quiet. This is a desperate measure trying to warn the American people not to re-elect this man, because John Kelly knows him up close. I have zero doubt that John Kelly is telling the truth. John Kelly does not lie. He served admirably and honorably for decades and decades. This is a man who we should listen to. And look, if you are a staunch Trump supporter, it won't matter to you. But to those Republicans who say they have the greatest respect for the military, to those Republicans who say they are for law and order, they better heed John Kelly's words. And I hope that at least some of them take it seriously. And if they are having a hard time marking that ballot for Kamala Harris, that this is something that helps them finally make that decision. And let me also please talk about this stuff, about what he said about Vanessa Guillen. If you don't believe that Donald Trump is capable of saying that $60,000 doesn't cost that much to bury a fucking Mexican, then you haven't been listening to Donald Trump. You haven't been listening to the way he talked about Judge Curiel as just a Mexican. You haven't been listening to the way he talked about Mexicans as criminals and rapists. You have forgotten when he said that people like me come from shithole countries. This is true to form for Donald Trump. So for those Latinos out there who think that when he says racist, offensive things, it doesn't apply to them, you are wrong. And if you are a Latino or an American with Trump amnesia, this should help to cure you.
The